that were being told were of the massacres, were of the raping of our women, was of the children being stolen and the land being completely decimated and our sacred places disrespected. You know, that's a hard thing to swallow as a child or even as an adult. My language has been wiped out, my songs and dances aren't there anymore. And that the initiation paths that I would have loved to have gone down weren't available to me as an Aboriginal person. That was devastating. That led me on to drug and alcohol abuse. But that served its purpose as well, because I had to get to a state where I realized that I was killing myself, that nobody actually was doing anything to me now except me, that I was the one choosing to be the destructive force in my life now. And once I had that realization, then I had a choice point, and that was to continue doing the same stuff or to do something different. And so once I hit that rock bottom, then I chose to do something different. And then for me, that was studying psychology. I wanted to understand myself more. And through the process of studying psychology, I started unraveling all of these deep emotional wounds that I'd been carrying all my life. Understanding how I was using drugs and alcohol to self-medicate myself because I didn't have the skills and the tools at the time to be able to do that. And so in a sense, they were saving my life. And I think I'd managed to do a lot with my anger and a lot with my grief, which is what I believe opened the gate up for what was about to happen next. And you see, my head was very much like the scenes out of Braveheart movie or something like that, where thousands and thousands of men would come running together with swords and clashing and bang, 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 you know, and blood and guts and people dying all over the place and screaming in agony, you know. That was my head every night. So it was rather noisy, you know what I mean. It was hard to sleep, and so, you know, self-medication used to be a good idea, but since I'd given up drugs and alcohol to study, I'd had to find other ways of falling asleep, which was generally study till exhaustion. And but this particular night in my third year, absolutely everything went silent in my being. And I felt a warm river run through my body. And then all of a sudden, I could feel all of my ancestors standing around me in a circle. And they said, nothing is lost. That everything is remembered on a spiritual level. And that there was nobody to blame for the loss of my culture, and there was nobody to say sorry to me, and that I would gain everything that I needed again in my life if I only tuned in with myself, with my spirit. And all I needed was patience, and that they would teach me everything that I need to know. And from that day onwards, you know, I've had that peace in my being. They bridged the gap of time for me. And they said, there is no gap. We're all inside, you know. And if there's no gap for me, then there's no gap for anybody. It actually doesn't matter that it was 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago. There's still no gap, that everything's remembered on a spiritual level. and that we all have access to that, each and every one of us. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it is available. Everybody's indigenous to somewhere. We've all got our indigenous roots to the land. And at some stage in history, you know, everybody has had another force, another outside people come along and overtake their lands and overtake their ways, their traditional ways. For a lot of the kids out there, you know, they don't even know that they've got a culture. It's so far away. They don't even realise that, say in England, for example, that there is an ancient earth culture. That it's been so far removed from their consciousness, from their parents' consciousness and their parents' consciousness, that it's not even talked about anymore, as if there has been a loss. Once it becomes ingrained in your own people, that's when they've got you. Because they no longer have to tell you that you're a drunk, that you're never going to get an education, that you're, you know, useless to society, or whatever, you know, that you're dirty, unreliable, all of those things, you know, the negative attributes that society puts onto minorities in order to make themselves feel better. So, you know, when it's taught to you by your own people, then it's pretty hard not to believe it. You know, it takes some extraordinary circumstances, it takes extraordinary will to break free of the bounds that's been put onto you, not only by your own people, but also by society at large, you know. And so, this is the situation that most people are in today and they don't even realize it. Most of the world is caught into the grips of a conditioning which is so deeply ingrained into their own family dynamics that they don't even realize that they're slaves to a system that's been set up a long time ago. And that system says that we need to work for a corporation, for some boss, so that we can pay our rent and eat our food and do all those sorts of things and work all of our life. And then maybe when we retire, when we get old enough, and hopefully we'll have enough money saved up to live the rest of our lives, and we might be able to go on a holiday or two. But that's not living. That's just prolonging death. If I play the didgeridoo over your body, you'll feel the vibration, and your nervous system will inform your brain that your body is moving. And what's basically happening is that on a cellular level, every single cell is being vibrated. And so you're getting mass communication on a cellular level. Now, communication is the key. Pain exists in our body in areas where we've stopped communicating and we've started to ignore. Because if we actually listened to the subtleties of our body before pain occurred, then we would have been able to readjust whatever was going on. We'd been able to release the tension before it turned into physical pain. So pain's a communicator. But what happens when most of us experience pain is that we turn off, we switch off to that area, because as a society we haven't been taught how to deal with pain, and that we can actually move pain with consciousness, with healing. And so oftentimes we end up just switching off to it. What I'm doing is helping people to re-establish communication with those parts of their bodies that have lost the voice, in a sense, because they got tired of telling the brain that they were in pain. And so the brain just said, all right, too much pain in there, I'm just going to completely ignore you. We'll put up some walls, we'll section you off, quarantined area, and that pain can just be over there. Now, once communication happens, and this is the important thing here, I believe, which is what makes the difference between standing in front of a speaker or beside a truck when it starts up and getting that vibration, and having a didgeridoo healing, for example, is one, intention. That I've been through a lot of the stuff that most people have been through, and so I've got like networks within my own energetic field which know how to release from pain, whether that be transgenerational trauma, whether that be this life's trauma, whether that be physical pain because I broke my back when I was 15 years old and I was told that I'll never be able to do a whole heap of things that I'm able to do quite successfully now. Thank you very much, doctors, for that inspiration to like break through the boundaries and the barriers, you know. And so there's a network, there's a pathway within my own energetic field which enables me to help guide other people through those same pathways, just like an experienced mountain climber knows how to take somebody along the mountain paths because they've been there before. Really interested in is pure emotional release and release from a cellular level. And that's why I'm able to work with people from all different cultures, all different sorts of backgrounds, is because we've all got this language which is universal. And the speed of thought which is associated with a particular feeling is phenomenal. The speed of language cannot possibly keep up with it. And as a counsellor, I realised this very early on in my training, is that every time I tried to explain to somebody what was going on inside of me, all of these different thoughts associated with that, it just took me forever to try and explain what was going on, and I could never actually get there because it was just too complicated. It was so multi-layered. There was too many things linking in with this one thing that I'm trying to talk about, you know, like I could, whatever it is. I might want to talk about how I just had a fight with my wife and how shitty I feel about that. Now, if I only talk about that and don't put it in reference to the fight that I had with my mother or with my grandmother or with my sister or with my ex-girlfriend, or, you know, all those sorts of things, that all the times that I felt the same way, then it actually, you know, it's just talking about a story. And it's the latest chapter of a story that's been with me all my life, which is an unhealed wound with some aspect of the feminine space. Successfully holding a space for somebody to allow them to go through their own process without me putting any of my stuff into it. And that's a really incredible space to hold for somebody. Just allow them to go for it, you know, whether they need to scream or cry or yell or go really silent, and not to be asked to do anything different to what they're doing, not to be hurried, not to be made felt bad about it or anything, just simply to be held in a space that you need to be in for as long as that takes. And it's a truly wonderful thing. And so what's happening with the didgeridoo is that there's that communication that starts with the vibration. It tells the brain, I'm vibrating. And then there's the intention. The intention is for there to be cellular release. So I'm communicating with the cells of the person. They're saying, let go. Let go of whatever you're holding on to, because it no longer serves you. And then I'm encouraging people to let go with their own sound as well, to take active part in the healing process, so that there's a meeting. There's the yin and the yang, there's the polarities of force, you know. There's not just an outside force coming in saying, you know, heal. There's also a meeting from within saying, I'm prepared to heal. You know, and let that sound out. And that's an alchemical process that happens, where a person engages into healing and they give themselves permission to heal. They give themselves permission to express that which has been unexpressed. And therefore, through that process, they heal. And then there's the great mystery. what some people call God. I could call Biami in my language, Great Spirit. The Great Healer, the energy from which all things come from. I've had countless experiences of this energy called God, called love, of healing. I don't consider myself a healer. I consider that I'm a conduit for healing, that I'm something tangible that people can come into contact with, and I make a space that's available for healing energy to come through me from God. I make a space available for healing energy to come through somebody else from God, directly from Spirit. And I give full credit to that, unashamedly, you know. It's just, God is the most beautiful presence that I have in my life. It's always there. I used to be afraid of using the word God, but God doesn't mean the Christianized sense of God to me anymore. It's a useful word to be able to explain an energy that's, you know, a creator, the creator. Our other responsibility is to dream. And that's to dream up a world of what we want to see. A world where we're living in peace and harmony with one another.